Imagine lying in a hospital bed, your body weak, the beep of the heart monitor, a fragile reminder that you're still alive. You've just survived a heart attack, your heart stopped twice, and somehow you're still here. You reach for your phone, hoping to see worried messages from loved ones, but instead there's just one text from the wife you've shared 15 years with. A screenshot of your joint bank account balance zeroes. Below it, a cold message. I deserve this money for what I've done for you. No apology, no explanation, just raw betrayal. This isn't fiction. This was the moment my world collapsed. I'm Cameron Doyle, a 45-year-old truck driver, and this is the story of how my wife Dana stole our entire life savings while I fought for my life in the hospital. But this isn't just a story of loss. It's about how I stayed 3 steps ahead, rose above the pain, and built a better life. Stick with me because this story will make you question, do you really know the people closest to you? And more importantly, what would you do if your entire world crumbled overnight? I'd been a long-haul trucker for 22 years. Long days on the highway nights, sleeping in my cab and gas station coffee that tasted like motor oil. Not a glamorous life, but it paid the mortgage on our house in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and kept Dana, my wife, comfortable, a comfort she never seemed to appreciate. We'd been married 15 years. No kids, just a home loan and quiet dinners when I was rarely home between runs. I met Dana at a gas station outside Cheyenne. She had a flat tire and I stopped to help. Her smile that day made me feel like a hero. 6 months later, we were married. Not an impulsive decision, but a belief in a better future. But long-haul trucking isn't easy. I was gone 3 weeks a month, staying in touch with Dana by phone. At first, we'd talk for hours, sharing everything from dreams to small details. Over time, those calls shrank from an hour to 5 minutes, then just curt texts. Made it to Nashville. All good. I noticed Dana stopped asking when I'd be home, started hanging out with friends I'd never met. I thought it was just the strain of my job that marriage was about trust. But trust, as I learned, can be your greatest weakness. Let's pause to unpack this. In any relationship, especially when distance is a factor, communication is key. A 2021 study found that couples who don't maintain regular contact through calls, texts, or shared goals are 30% more likely to grow apart than those who stay connected. I didn't see it then, but Dana and I were slowly becoming strangers. If you're in a relationship tested by distance, ask yourself, are you both truly trying? Because when one person stops, the other can be blinded by their own trust. Everything changed one freezing night outside Omaha. I'd been feeling chest pain for weeks, but chalked it up to stress, bad coffee, long hauls, bills piling up. That night, the pain hit like a punch. I pulled over, called 911, and the next thing I knew, I woke up 2 days later in a Sioux Falls hospital, a stent in my heart. The nurse said I died and come back twice. You're lucky, she said, but I didn't feel lucky when I checked my phone. Just one text from Dana. She sent a screenshot of our joint account balance, $0. Below it, she wrote, I deserve this money for what I've done for you. $61, $438.72. My emergency fund, truck maintenance money, retirement savings gone. I should have been furious, should have screamed, but instead I felt a deep exhaustion, like all my strength had been drained. I replied with a thumbs-up emoji, nothing more. Why? Because I knew an emotional reaction would only trap me in her game. I needed to think to plan. Let's talk about this. Betrayal when you're vulnerable, like during illness, isn't just personal. It's a power play. Psychologists call it opportunistic betrayal. When someone exploits your weakness, they're not just hurting you, they're trying to control you. Dana didn't just take money. She took my security when I couldn't fight back. If you've been betrayed by a partner, friend, or coworker, ask yourself, did they strike when you were at your weakest? It's not random, it's calculated. Instead of going home after discharge, I called my brother Jeff, a construction foreman across town. I need a place to stay for a few days, I said, and don't tell Dana. Jeff didn't hesitate. She doesn't know you're alive, he asked. Oh, she knows, I replied. She just doesn't know I'm not coming home. That night in Jeff's living room, I started piecing things together. 3 months earlier, I'd refinanced our house when rates dropped. Dana said she was busy, so I handled it, putting it in my name alone since my credit was better. She didn't even ask about the paperwork. Last year, after a friend had a stroke and his girlfriend couldn't make medical decisions, I set up a medical power of attorney with help from my niece Megan, a law student. Dana didn't know that either. These weren't intentional secrets, just details she didn't care about. But now they were my lifelines. Let's talk strategy. When life hits you hard, your first instinct is to react, yell, confront, or collapse. But the smartest move is to pause. In chess, great players don't just respond. They anticipate 3 moves ahead. I wasn't angry yet. I was calculating. If you're facing a crisis, take a breath. Gather your resources. People documents knowledge. Who's on your side? What do you control? I had Jeff, Megan, and the house in my name. That was my starting point. A few days later, Harold, my neighbor, texted, "Haven't seen you around. Dana's got some guy at the house." That message hurt more than the heart attack. I went with Jeff to the bank's main office, not the local branch where Dana and I were known. I showed the fraud specialist Dana's text and hospital records proving I was unconscious when the money was withdrawn. "Joint accounts are tricky," she said, "but we'll investigate." She warned that police might get involved. I nodded. I understand. Back at Jeff's, I logged into accounts Dana didn't know about, investments she never cared about. Another text from Dana. "Where are you?" "Your truck's not at the lot." I didn't reply. Silence was my weapon. That night I walked around Jeff's neighborhood, the sky clear and full of stars. For the first time since the hospital, my chest didn't hurt. I wasn't angry or hurt anymore. I was done with her. And with that clarity, I realized Dana didn't just take my money. She gave me freedom. Let's tell a true story to illustrate this. In 2018, a woman in Ohio named Sarah discovered her husband had drained their savings while she was undergoing cancer treatment. Like me, she didn't confront him immediately. She consulted a lawyer, secured her assets, and quietly gathered evidence of his infidelity. When she filed for divorce, she won 70% of their assets. Sarah's story, like mine, shows the power of staying calm under pressure. Emotions cloud judgment. Strategy clears the path. I met Blake, a lawyer friend of Jeff's, at his office. The house was mine, and Dana's withdrawal while I was unconscious could be considered financial exploitation. South Dakota's equitable distribution laws favor you, Blake said. Don't contact Dana. Everything goes through me. The next day, Dana showed up at Jeff's, banging on the door. "I know you're in there, Cameron." I sat still, heart pounding, until she left. Her text came right after. "I'm sorry. I thought you were cheating. We can work this out." I didn't respond. Blake called soon after. Dana had hired Patricia Wells, a notorious divorce attorney. Wells accused me of abandoning Dana by disappearing after discharge. Blake countered with an emergency hearing presenting hospital records and Dana's text. Judge Harmon, unimpressed, froze the funds and warned of criminal charges. Dana tried to approach me outside court. "Cameron, please," she said. I walked past without looking back. Let's analyze. Dana's apology was a tactic, not remorse. Psychologists note that betrayers often use defensive apologies to shift blame, here accusing me of cheating. In relationships, beware apologies that dodge accountability. A real apology owns the harm. A fake one just covers tracks. If you're facing betrayal, don't let manipulative words sway you. Stick to your plan. A week later, Blake showed me a bank statement from an account in Dana's name. $127,340.56, accumulated over 18 months with deposits matching my long hauls. Megan, my niece interning at a credit union, had found it. The deposits were always under $10,000, the reporting threshold a classic money-hiding trick. Then a credit card statement, hotel charges in Minneapolis booked under Harold's name, my neighbor, while I was in Seattle. Dana and Harold were conspiring him, playing concerned neighbor while they planned. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a scheme. I felt like I'd been punched in the face, but I told Blake, make them regret thinking they could get away. Megan dug further. Harold was an authorized user on Dana's secret account, and they'd started moving money to new accounts. They were preparing to run. I photographed home improvements, landscaping a shed paid with my money installed by Harold, boosting the value of the house, now solely in my name. Blake used this to pressure Dana's lawyer, who offered to return 50% of the money for 50% of the house's equity. Let them sweat, Blake advised. Another real-world example, in 2020, a Texas man named Mark discovered his wife was funneling money to her lover's business while he was away on work. He hired a forensic accountant to trace the funds, proving fraud. Like me, Mark leveraged evidence to protect his assets before confronting her. These stories show knowledge is power. If you suspect deception, dig for proof, bank statements, emails, receipts. Truth is your leverage. I noticed a for sale sign on Harold's lawn. Megan confirmed he'd withdrawn $90,000 via cashier's check. Dana texted, "We need to talk, no lawyers." I forwarded it to Blake, who filed for an emergency injunction to freeze their assets and block the property sale. At the hearing, I recorded Dana and Harold arguing in the courthouse parking lot, proof of their relationship. Judge Harmon watched the video, unimpressed with Wells' denials. He froze all assets, barred Dana and Harold from leaving the county, and granted me temporary use of the house, citing financial exploitation. Dana's fear was palpable as we left court. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. I got the house, my truck, and 80% of the savings. Dana got her car and 20% minus my legal fees. Harold vanished. Dana moved to Minneapolis. I sold the house, bought a smaller place near Jeff and Megan, and started dispatching instead of driving. My heart couldn't handle long hauls anymore, but I found peace and stability. Let's reflect. The legal system isn't perfect, but evidence and timing are everything. In 2022, a California woman won a similar case by documenting her husband's financial abuse while she was hospitalized. Courts favor the vulnerable when evidence is clear. If you're in a legal fight, patience and documentation are your allies. Don't rush. Build your case. So what did I learn? Betrayal doesn't define you. Your response does. Dana thought she destroyed me, but she forced me to fight for myself. I built a calmer, simpler life, but it's mine. Last week, I found our wedding album in a box. I didn't throw it out. It's part of my story, a chapter, not the end. I'm not angry anymore. I'm grateful. Dana's betrayal was the fire that forged a stronger me. One final story. In 2019, a New York woman named Lisa lost her savings to a friend who exploited her during a mental health crisis. Lisa turned pain into purpose, founding a nonprofit for victims of financial abuse. Like Lisa, I found meaning in suffering. Whether it's betrayal loss or failure, your lowest moment can be your launch pad. Takeaway: life will test you often when you're weakest, but every crisis is a chance to rebuild stronger. Don't let betrayal write your story. Use it to write a new chapter. Protect your assets, trust your gut, and surround yourself with people who lift you up. You're not a victim, you're a survivor. Keep fighting, and I'll see you in the next video. I moved on with my new life, but the story didn't end there. One evening, while having dinner with Jeff and Megan, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. Subject: we need to talk. It was from someone claiming to be Dana's friend, saying she was struggling in Minneapolis and wanted to reach out. I sat there, chopsticks midair, as Jeff glanced over. "You gonna respond?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not through email. If she wants to talk, she knows how to find my lawyer." But that email got me thinking. Was Dana truly remorseful, or was this another ploy I'd learned that doubt is your best guardian when trust has been shattered? Weeks later, I ran into an old colleague, Mike, at a local coffee shop. Mike had been a trucker like me, but quit after his wife cheated. "I got through it," Mike said, sipping his coffee. "What kept me sane was focusing on what I could control: new job health friends." Don't let the past drag you down, Cameron. Mike's advice resonated. I realized every day I chose not to let Dana consume my thoughts, I got closer to true freedom. Meanwhile, Megan kept shining in law school. She called one day, thrilled about landing a prestigious internship. "You know," she said, "your case inspired me. I want to help people who've been exploited like you." Hearing her say that filled me with a pride I couldn't describe. Dana may have taken my money, but she inadvertently helped me leave a legacy, not in cash, but in inspiring others. But life always has surprises. One morning I got a call from Blake. "Cameron, you won't believe this," he said. "Dana's lawyer just reached out. She wants to negotiate to retrieve some personal items left in the house before you sold it." I scoffed. "What does she want?" "The wedding album." Blake laughed. "Maybe, but I advise against meeting her. Let me handle it." I agreed, but curiosity made me check the house before moving out. In a closet corner, I found a small box I'd never noticed. Inside were old letters, ones I wrote to Dana in our early marriage when I'd drive through the night and mail them from truck stops. Reading them, I felt a pang of sadness, but not regret. That was a different Cameron, one who hadn't yet learned that sometimes losing something is the only way to find yourself. This story, I realized, isn't just about me. It's about anyone who's been stabbed in the back and still got up. Like Karen, a woman I read about on an online forum. Karen's husband secretly funneled money to an offshore account while she battled lupus. She hired a private investigator and reclaimed most of her assets in a divorce. "I didn't just get my money back," Karen wrote. "I got my self-respect." Stories like Karen's, Sarah's, Lisa's reminded me that betrayal is common, but so is resilience. I started sharing my story with others, not for pity, but to help them see the bottom isn't the end. At a community workshop on financial planning, I recounted my experience, stressing the importance of protecting assets and spotting red flags. An attendee, John, approached me afterward. "My wife's doing weird things with our accounts," he said. "Your story made me think I need to look closer." I gave him Blake's number and urged him to act before it was too late. Helping John made me feel I wasn't just a victim. I was a survivor who could make a difference. As time passed, I began enjoying the small things in my new life. Sunday mornings with coffee, and the paper evenings watching baseball with Jeff, and calls with Megan hearing about her law school cases. I even started dating again, not rushing just coffee dates, with a coworker at the dispatch office, a woman named Ellen who made me laugh in a way I'd forgotten. I wasn't looking for a new Dana. I was looking for a new Cameron, one who knew his own worth. But Dana, it turned out, wasn't entirely out of my story. One day, Blake called again. She filed for bankruptcy in Minneapolis, he said. Looks like she burned through the remaining money and can't pay her debts. Part of me wanted to feel smug, but I didn't. I just felt sad not for Dana, but for what we once had and how it all fell apart. I texted Megan about it, and she replied, "Uncle, that's just natural consequences. You moved on, she didn't." Megan was right. I hadn't just survived. I'd grown. My story continues, and I want you watching this video to know yours does too. Maybe you're facing betrayal, a crisis, or a loss. Maybe you feel like you've lost everything. But listen to me. You're stronger than you think. Gather your evidence, seek support, and plan your next move. Turn pain into power. Like I did, like Sarah, Lisa, Karen, and countless others have. And if you found this video helpful, share it with someone who needs a reminder that rock bottom is just the start of a new chapter. My story didn't end there, and what happened next was a series of twists I never saw coming. One quiet afternoon in Sioux Falls, as I sorted through papers in my new home, the doorbell rang. I opened it and froze to see a stranger, a man about 50 in a gray suit holding a leather briefcase. "Cameron Doyle," he asked, his voice low but sharp. I nodded, unease rising. "I'm Richard Hensley, a private investigator. I was hired to find you regarding Dana and some unresolved financial matters." My heart raced. Dana again, I invited him in but kept my distance. "What matters?" I asked, trying to sound calm. Hensley set down his briefcase, opening it to reveal a stack of documents. "Are you aware of a company called Horizon Ventures?" I shook my head. "Never heard of it." He slid a paper across the table, a contract with Dana's signature, and below it Harold's name, my old neighbor. "This is a shell company," Hensley said. "Dana and Harold used it to launder the money they took from your account, and it seems they invested in a real estate project in Minneapolis. But the project collapsed, and now the investors are hunting them and you." My blood ran cold. "Hold on," I said. "I had nothing to do with this. Dana took the money and I won the divorce. The court settled it." Hensley tilted his head, his gaze sharp as a blade. "The problem is, some transactions were made under a company you're unwittingly a shareholder of through an old mortgage loan Dana forged your signature on." I nearly fell out of my chair. Forged signature shareholder company. This was a new nightmare. Hensley explained that Dana had used documents from the house refinance, the one I thought was solely in my name, to tie me to Horizon Ventures. The investors out millions were now suing anyone named in the records, including me. "They think you're complicit," Hensley said, "and they're not the type to let go easily." I called Blake, my lawyer, immediately and recounted everything. "This is a dirty move," Blake said over the phone. "Dana and Harold clearly planned this long ago, but dragging you into it is a desperate step. We need to meet now to strategize." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dana, how she looked at me outside court, scared but still calculating. Did she know this would happen? Was this a final trap to drag me down with her? I opened my laptop, searching for Horizon Ventures. A few articles popped up, a failed condo project in Minneapolis. Angry investors and some shady names involved. Harold was mentioned as a consulting partner, but Dana wasn't. She'd cleverly hidden her tracks, or at least tried to. The next day, I met Blake at his office. Megan was there too, carrying a coffee and a thick file. I dug deeper, she said, her eyes gleaming like a detective's. Horizon Ventures isn't just a shell company. It's linked to a network of real estate firms across 3 states. And guess what? Harold isn't the mastermind. There's someone else, a broker named Victor Callahan, notorious in Minneapolis for shady deals. Megan pointed to a photo of a middle-aged man's silver hair, smug smile. Callahan's the puppeteer, she said. Dana and Harold were just pawns in his game. A chill ran through me. This wasn't just about Dana betraying me anymore. It was bigger, darker. Blake nodded. We need to prove you knew nothing about this company. Otherwise, you could face civil lawsuits or worse, criminal liability. He suggested hiring a forensic accountant to review every transaction tied to me. And Cameron Blake said, locking eyes with me, don't contact anyone connected to Dana or Harold. Callahan might be watching you. I left the office feeling like I'd stepped into a thriller movie, but this was my life, not Hollywood. Days later, I got a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Rusty Nail, 8 p.m. I know the truth about Dana. No signature, no clues. I forwarded it to Blake, but he warned could be a trap. If you go, I'll send someone with you. I decided to go not out of curiosity, but because I was tired of being manipulated. Rusty Nail was a noisy bar in downtown Sioux Falls, full of workers and the smell of stale beer. I sat in a corner Jeff at a nearby table as backup. At 8 sharp, a woman walked in, about 40, dyed blonde hair, nervous eyes. She sat across from me. I'm Laura, she said. I used to work for Victor Callahan. Laura told a story that chilled me to the bone. She was Callahan's assistant at a Minneapolis real estate firm, and she'd seen Dana and Harold visit the office multiple times over 2 years. They weren't just having an affair, Laura said, her voice shaky. They were helping Callahan move money through shell companies, including Horizon Ventures. Dana was sharp, she handled contracts, while Harold was just the errand boy. But when the project tanked, Callahan blamed them. Laura said she quit when she realized Callahan was tied to dangerous people, ones who wouldn't hesitate to use violence to collect debts. I'm telling you because Dana contacted me last week, Laura continued. She's panicking, saying Callahan's after her. She thinks you can help. I gave a dry laugh. Help. After everything she did, Laura shrugged. I'm not here to defend Dana. I just thought you should know who you're up against. Callahan won't stop until he gets his money or destroys everyone involved. She slid a USB across the table. These are documents I copied before I left. They might help prove you're innocent. I took the USB feeling like it weighed a ton. Before leaving, Laura warned, be careful, Cameron. Callahan has eyes everywhere. I gave the USB to Blake, who passed it to the forensic accountant, a no-nonsense woman named Helen. Within a week, Helen called me to her office. You're lucky to have this, she said, pointing to a screen full of data. The USB held emails, contracts, and transfer records showing Dana and Harold funneled my money through Horizon Ventures, but no evidence I knew about the company. However, Helen said there's a wrinkle. Callahan used some Horizon funds to bankroll an illegal operation, possibly smuggling. If the FBI gets involved, this goes beyond a civil suit. I felt the floor drop. Smuggling FBI. How did I get dragged into this mess? Blake immediately contacted a friend at the FBI agent, Karen Ruiz. We met Ruiz at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. She listened to my story, reviewed the USB, and said, Mr. Doyle, I believe you're a victim, but you need to understand Callahan's a big target. We've been tracking him for 2 years. Dana and Harold are small fries, but they've led us to you and maybe to Callahan. Ruiz offered me a deal, cooperate, share any info about Dana or Harold, and get protection. Protection, I asked. From who? Ruiz looked me dead in the eye. Callahan's not just a real estate broker. He's tied to a crime syndicate in Minneapolis. If he thinks you have something he wants like that USB, you're in danger. I left the cafe feeling like I was living a nightmare. But I agreed to work with Ruiz, not to be a hero, but to end this. Over the next few weeks, I quietly fed the FBI every detail I could recall about Dana and Harold. Her trips, her behavioral shifts, even her mentions of Minneapolis. Meanwhile, I got another call, this time from Dana herself. "Cameron, please, I need to see you." Her voice trembled through the speaker. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was forced. Callahan, he'll kill me if I don't pay him." I stayed silent, letting her talk. "I know you have the USB," she went on. "Give it to me, and I swear I'll leave you alone." I hung up and called Ruiz. Ruiz set up a meeting between me and Dana at a public park, but under FBI surveillance. I carried a fake USB, Blake's idea, to trick Dana. At the park, Dana showed up looking haggard, eyes sunken. "Cameron," she said, near tears, "I didn't mean for things to go this far. Harold pulled me in, and Callahan wouldn't let me out." I handed her the fake USB, and she grabbed it like a lifeline. "Thank you," she whispered, then walked off. I watched her climb into a black car, and right then, FBI agents swarmed, arresting her and the driver, one of Callahan's men. Later, Ruiz called. Dana spilled everything she said. She's agreed to testify against Callahan for leniency. Harold was picked up in Chicago this morning. We found him trying to sell a condo under a fake name. I exhaled, but Ruiz cautioned Callahan's still out there. "Stay low until we nab him." I went home, locked my doors, and for the first time in months felt a sliver of relief. Dana and Harold were paying the price, but Callahan, the bigger shadow, was still a threat. While waiting, I started attending a local support group for survivors of financial abuse. There I met Anna, a woman about 40, whose boyfriend had conned her out of her retirement savings. "I thought I was so stupid," Anna said at one meeting. "But hearing your story, Cameron, I realized we're not stupid, we just trusted the wrong people." Anna and I became friends, and she introduced me to a nonprofit helping victims of financial abuse. I began volunteering, sharing my story to warn others. Every time I spoke, I felt I wasn't just helping others. I was healing myself. But my story wasn't over. One night while watching TV, my phone rang. No caller ID. I answered, and a low, cold voice said, "Cameron Doyle. You have something I want." My heart stopped. "Who's this?" I asked, though I knew. "Victor Callahan," the voice replied. "That USB, I know you have it. Give it to me or I'll come to Sioux Falls and take it myself." I hung up, hands shaking, and called Ruiz. "He made contact," I said. Ruiz responded fast. "Don't leave your house. We're sending people." That night I sat in the dark, gripping a baseball bat, waiting. But Callahan didn't show. Instead, the next morning, Ruiz called. "We got him." Dana led us to a meeting with Callahan and his partners. He thought she was still loyal. I almost laughed. Dana, who betrayed me, had inadvertently saved me from Callahan. Poetic justice, right? Today, as I sit here sharing this story, I realize Dana's betrayal wasn't just a loss. It was a lesson. It taught me about resilience, about trusting myself even when everything falls apart. I still live in Sioux Falls, working as a dispatcher, volunteering for the nonprofit, and even started writing a book about my experience. Megan's about to graduate law school, and she says I'm her biggest inspiration. Jeff's still the best brother, always there to listen over a beer. And Ellen, the woman I met at work, is becoming a big part of my life, not to replace Dana, but to remind me that real love isn't built on manipulation. My story, despite its wild twists and seemingly insurmountable challenges, finally found a pause, not a perfect Hollywood ending, but a new beginning, a chapter I wrote for myself. After everything, Dana's betrayal, Harold's scheme, Callahan's threats, and the days living in fear of being hunted, I realized life never really ends like in novels. It transforms, and how you face those changes shapes who you become. One fall morning in Sioux Falls, as golden leaves blanketed my yard, I got one last call from Agent Karen Ruiz. "Cameron," she said, her voice unusually relieved, "we closed the case. Callahan and his crew won't see daylight for a long time. Dana and Harold got their sentences, her 7 years, him 10. Emily's notebook and the hard drive from the safe helped us dismantle the whole network." I sank into my chair, feeling like a boulder had lifted from my chest. "What about Emily?" I asked. Ruiz chuckled. "She's fine. Back in school in Seattle working part-time." "She asked about you, wanted to say thanks again." I smiled, saying nothing. Helping Emily wasn't just a kind act. It was how I reminded myself I wasn't the victim of this story. I was the one who decided how it ended. Weeks later, I hosted a small barbecue at my place, just Jeff, Megan, Ellen, and a few friends from the financial abuse support group. We grilled in the backyard, played country music, and laughed under a blazing red sunset. Megan, now a full-fledged lawyer, stood to make a toast. To Uncle Cameron, she said, eyes sparkling, "Who taught me justice isn't just about winning a case, but living a life you're proud of." Everyone clapped, and Ellen squeezed my hand under the table, her look saying it all. "You did it." That night, after everyone left, I stood alone on my porch, staring at a star-filled sky. I thought about Dana Harold those days. I thought I wouldn't make it. But I did. Not because I was stronger than them, but because I chose not to let them define me. The book I wrote, 3 Steps Ahead: Overcoming Betrayal and Rebuilding Your Life, got published a year later. It's no bestseller, but it reached people who needed it. People like Anna, like John, like hundreds who emailed to thank me for giving them hope. I still volunteer with the nonprofit, now expanded to 2 states, helping victims of financial abuse secure their futures. Ellen and I moved in together, not rushing into marriage, but building a relationship on honesty and respect, something I never truly had with Dana. Jeff's still the irreplaceable brother, always ready to make me laugh or drag me fishing when I overthink. And Megan. She just won her first case representing a woman whose husband swindled her savings. Learned from the best, she winked when she called with the news. If you're still watching this video, I want to leave you with one final lesson. Life will test you sometimes in the cruelest ways. The person you love most might stab you in the back, strangers might pull you into their darkness, and the past might knock when you least expect it. But you have a power no one can take the choice of how you respond. I lost money, trust, almost my life. But I found myself a stronger, wiser Cameron, living true to my values. You can do that too. Protect what's yours. Find people who lift you up and never stop writing your own story. Dana Harold Callahan. They were painful chapters in my book, but not the last. The last chapter is about me, and I choose to make it a story of triumph. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If my story touched you, share it with someone who needs a light in the dark. And keep fighting, because your story deserves to be told. I'm Cameron Doyle, and I'll see you in the next video.